Imagine a young woman named Kelsey Smith, just turned 18, and excitedly shopping for a gift. Suddenly, she vanished, leaving her family and community devastated. This heartbreaking event sparked a big debate about laws and company rules meant to keep us safe. Here's what happened. When Kelsey went missing, her phone company wouldn't share where her phone last pinged. They said privacy laws stopped them. This delay made it harder to find her in time. Sadly, it was too late for Kelsey, but this sparked changes. Kelsey's story reached beyond the United States, making headlines worldwide. She was taken in broad daylight from a busy place and later found with injuries outside the city. Because her phone's location couldn't be tracked right away, it took nearly a week to find her. This led to a big discussion and eventually a new law named after her. This law aimed to fix the issues that arose during Kelsey's case. It shows how rules meant to protect us sometimes need adjusting, so they can actually help when we need it most. But let's look at Kelsey Smith's story from the beginning and try to understand how she was abducted right outside a shopping center under the watch of dozens of surveillance cameras, and whether this tragedy could have been avoided. We will also explore the personality of the abductor, a criminal who was considered by all to be a loving husband and caring father. Who is Edwin Hall? We will begin our examination of this difficult case by getting to know the man who caused the terrible tragedy. Edwin Roy Hall, friends knew him as Jack, was born in 1981 in April in the small town of Lee Summit, located almost on the border of the states of Missouri and Kansas. He was the second child in a low-income and extremely disadvantaged family. Edwin's childhood was hard, if not to say harsh. The parents of the boy used large quantities of hot drinks and illegal substances, not engaged in the upbringing of children, and mistreated them. Later, Hall would tell about the fact that at the age of 5 he was intimately abused by his uncle, his father's brother. But to unequivocally confirm or deny this statement is simply not possible. Many thought that this detail was invented by the perpetrator's lawyer to make his client look like a victim of circumstances at the trial and try to mitigate his punishment. But be that as it may, at the age of 6, Edwin found himself in an orphanage after his father was behind bars and his mother was deprived of parental rights. In the following years, the boy changed several foster families, but each time he was abandoned after a while and returned back to the orphanage. This was due to the uncontrolled aggression of the child as well as his cruelty. From an early age, Hall showed sadistic tendencies towards animals. He liked to torture them and watch them suffer. The boy did not recognize anyone's authority, disobeyed his foster parents, stole, and ran away from home. His last foster family returned Edwin to state custody at the age of 15. This was after the teenager attacked his stepsister with a knife. Then the tragedy was avoided and the boy was pitied and not prosecuted. However, a year later, he again came to the attention of the police when he deliberately hit another orphanage pupil who was much younger than him on the head with a baseball bat. As an adult, Hall had no record with the police, and he seemed to have matured, taken charge, and finally reformed. At the age of 20, he married a girl named Alita, who bore him a son a year and a half later. Edwin got an old Chevrolet truck from the 70s on which he worked, transporting various goods. His neighbors knew him as a quiet, humble, and friendly guy, as well as a good family man. However, he also had another secret life, which became known only when Hall found himself in the dock for committing serious crimes. Who was the victim Kelsey Smith? Kelsey Ann Smith was born in 1989 on May 3rd in a place called Overland Park, which ranks as the second most populous city in the state of Kansas. She was the third of 5 children in the large and very close-knit family of Gregory and Missy Smith. Growing up alongside her older brother Steve and sister Lindy, as well as her younger siblings Kat and Zach, she was very close to all of them. The family patriarch, Gregory "Greg" Smith, was a former military man and a veteran of the United States Navy. He had also served in the police force for over 2 decades and was now enjoying his well-deserved retirement. Meanwhile, The mother, Missy Smith, had dedicated her life to healthcare, having worked for many years at one of the local hospitals. Despite her professional commitments, she brilliantly managed to balance work with raising her numerous offspring and creating a cozy home environment. From a young age, Kelsey was an extremely active, sociable, and theatrical child. She loved to sing and dance, attended a music school where she learned to play several musical instruments, and eagerly participated in school theater productions and choir performances. In addition to this, she thoroughly enjoyed gymnastics and loved soccer, often attending various sporting events with her father and brothers, and she was a fan of the local team. Young Smith had many friends, possessed a great sense of humor, was talented in numerous areas, and knew how to make a good impression on those around her. She also had a profound love for animals from childhood and dreamed of going to college after high school to pursue a career as a veterinarian. In her senior years of high school, Kelsey took a job in the local orchestra where she played the clarinet, performing at various city events. This job allowed her to save enough money in just 6 months to buy her first personal car, a 1987 Buick Regal. Her parents weren't too fond of the fact that her car was older than she was and offered to add some money from the family budget to buy something more recent. However, it was crucial for her to purchase her first vehicle independently with her own money, so she declined their offer. Kelsey's personal life is noteworthy. The Smiths went to great lengths to provide their children with the very best, caring deeply for their education and holistic development. However, they also raised their offspring with a strong sense of discipline. There were clear rules in their home that everyone abided by without exception. For instance, all family members were expected to share their plans and always inform each other if they were going to be out late. Kelsey herself was always punctual, never late, and would always tell her parents where she was going and who she was spending time with. During her senior year, Kelsey entered into a romantic relationship with a young man named John Beersmith. According to Kelsey, it was a deep and mutual love at first sight, the kind you read about in books or see in movies. The couple rang in the new year of 2007 together, and from then on were practically inseparable. Smith's partner, a year her senior, appeared to be a serious young man who treated his beloved with the utmost care and respect. Both sets of parents approved of their children's choice and did not stand in the way of their relationship. In May 2007, Kelsey celebrated her 18th birthday. That same month, she graduated from high school and was thrilled to learn that she had been accepted into a prestigious college in Kansas, where she intended to study veterinary medicine. The following days were, without exaggeration, some of the happiest in the young woman's life. Unfortunately, they turned out to be her last. Smith, along with her classmates, attended parties celebrating the end of high school. She had a great time fully enjoying the festive atmosphere, as well as romantic dates with her beloved. At this point, she'd achieved everything she had wished for: admission into her dream college, a relationship with a worthy young man who was about to propose, and it seemed a long, happy life lay ahead of her. The disappearance from the mall parking lot on June 2, 2007, Kelsey and John were preparing to celebrate a significant milestone in their relationship, the 6-month anniversary of when they first started dating. JN planned to make the day even more memorable by proposing to Kelsey. He had a beautiful engagement ring custom-made for the occasion, reserved a table for 2 at a restaurant, and the evening was set to be one of the happiest in their lives together. Kelsey was unaware of the upcoming proposal, which was meant to be a surprise. She too was looking for a gift to surprise and delight JN. That Saturday, she styled her hair, did her makeup, dressed up, and drove her car to a Target Corporation store located just 10 minutes from her home. There was no indication of the tragedy that was about to unfold. Around 7 in the evening, she called her mother to say she had found a gift for JN but needed to find the perfect gift bag for it, preferably something with a romantic touch. Missy suggested checking a shopping mall across the street from Target, confident that it would have what Kelsey was looking for. Kelsey thanked her mother for the advice and said she would be home soon, where JN was supposed to pick her up at 8 o'clock. That was the last time Missy heard her daughter's voice. Kelsey never made it back home. When John arrived at 8 with a large bouquet of flowers, he was shocked and frightened to find that Kelsey was not there. Her parents were equally terrified, as it was completely out of character for her not to answer phone calls or texts. She vanished in broad daylight in a busy area, and no one noticed her disappearance. The search and investigation began with the family patriarch, along with his 2 eldest children, setting out to search for their daughter. Upon finding her car parked at the Oak Park Mall, a sliver of hope emerged that Kelsey might be nearby. Still inside the mall for some unknown reason, after searching through all the floors and stores and inquiring with the salespeople and security guards if anyone had seen the girl, they were convinced she was not there. Returning to the car, which appeared undisturbed without any signs of struggle or violence, the father, leveraging his experience as a former police officer, decided not to touch anything. It was possible the car was part of a crime scene, and it was crucial not to tamper with or destroy any evidence. The girl's parents reported her missing to the police that same day, but were initially met with resistance to start an immediate search. The explanation was that since Kelsey was 18, she wouldn't legally be considered missing until 24 hours had passed since her disappearance. However, Kelsey's father, not one to back down and using his old connections, insisted on an immediate search for his daughter. Moreover, he made inquiries to see if any hospitals in the city had admitted women matching their daughter's description. Kelsey's family and fiancé were interviewed that same evening to establish their alibis and rule them out as suspects, a standard procedure. Surveillance footage from the Target store was also reviewed. The video showed Kelsey entering the store, browsing the selection, making a purchase, and then, while talking on the phone, leaving the building to head back to her car. At that moment, she was speaking with her mother, asking where to find a gift bag, and then headed to the mall across the street following her mother's advice. Essentially, Kelsey simply drove out, turned around, and parked at the Oak Park Mall, leaving her car near the side entrance almost against the wall. Her car was thoroughly inspected by experts. It seemed untouched from the outside. The gift she bought for JN was on the passenger seat, and her backpack with personal items, a tablet, and a wallet containing about $300 in cash was in the back. Therefore, a robbery was quickly ruled out. It appeared that the car's owner had left only with her credit card and phone in her pocket, as everything else remained inside the car. No signs of a struggle, blood, or damage were found. There were no foreign fingerprints except for one found on the driver's seatbelt. This fingerprint belonged to neither Kelsey, her relatives, nor her boyfriend. Issues with the cellular company tracking the young woman's location could have been possible through the signal of her mobile phone. By that time, the device itself had become inaccessible, presumably turned off or damaged, but it was still feasible to determine the last known location where the mobile phone was active in order to narrow down the search area. However, Verizon Communications, the wireless carrier, did not provide the necessary data for the investigation for several days. Interestingly, the company did not outright refuse to cooperate, but kept promising to look into the matter, effectively dragging out the process. Back in 2007, telecommunications companies were allowed to withhold subscriber data from law enforcement agencies, including the police or FBI, without a specific court order. They cited information privacy laws, and even situations where an individual's safety or life might be at risk were not considered exceptions to this rule. The disturbing stranger, upon closer examination of the surveillance footage, a chilling detail was uncovered: a mysterious stranger following the young woman like a shadow. He didn't stand out at first because he always kept his distance and didn't attempt to interact with Kelsey directly. The individual in question was a Caucasian male with a pleasant appearance, estimated to be in his early to mid-20s, sporting dark short hair and a light beard. He was dressed casually in a plain white t-shirt and black shorts. He entered the Target store roughly half a minute after the girl and followed her through all the sections she visited, maintaining a few meters distance. This mysterious man was captured by all the surveillance cameras that Kelsey was, and later during the trial, the prosecution would describe his behavior as akin to a predator stalking its prey. He exited the store after her, and making sure she was alone, followed her to the Oak Park parking lot in his Chevrolet truck. It's likely that he overheard her conversation with her mother, as he was practically behind Kelsey while she was on the phone. Consequently, he could have learned about her plans to visit the neighboring shopping center. Unfortunately, Smith parked her car in a poorly chosen spot next to a side door near a storage area, where shadows fell on her vehicle, making it nearly impossible to discern the events on the camera footage. While Kelsey was still seated in her car, the truck parked beside her, and a figure in a white t-shirt and black shorts emerged. The stranger approached her from the driver's side door, and then she, presumably under the threat of harm, got behind the wheel of his Chevrolet, and the truck drove off in an unknown direction. Media attention and alert viewers from the outset, largely thanks to the connections and experience of Gregory Smith, the media were enlisted to cover the investigation. Smith knew that the louder the outcry, the broader the coverage in the press, and the more attention it garnered, the higher the chances of finding their daughter and bringing the responsible party to justice. The story was covered not only in national, but also in international media, including on the popular show America's Most Wanted. When surveillance footage revealed the mysterious stranger following Kelsey, the frame showing his face most clearly was broadcasted in the news, urging people to come forward if they recognized the man. That same evening, the police began receiving calls from individuals claiming to have seen the men in various cities and even states. Although most of these reports were mistaken, each one was investigated. On June 6th, a Mrs. Miggs called in stating she recognized her neighbor Edwin Hall in the footage, but had hesitated to report it initially due to doubt. However, seeing the information about the truck removed her last doubts, as Hall also drove an old 1970s Chevrolet. Horrific discovery at Longview Lake and the suspect's arrest on June 6, 2007. Several pivotal events unfolded in the investigation. First, crucial data regarding the last known location of Kelsey's phone signal was finally obtained from Verizon Communications. A specific cell tower was pinpointed, establishing a search radius of 1.1 miles to the north of it. Within 45 minutes of initiating the search operation, the lifeless body of the young woman was found in the brush near Longview Lake, Missouri, approximately 30 m from where she was abducted. The medical examiners determined that Kelsey had been brutally assaulted and then strangled with her own belt. Her body was discovered without clothing except for the belt used to strangle her around her neck. After the assault, her body was callously discarded in the bushes, covered only slightly with dry branches. Over the 4 days it lay exposed under the June sun, her remains were severely disfigured by insects and other wildlife, making them almost unrecognizable. Nonetheless, the examination confirmed that it was indeed the missing young Smith. The second significant event on June 6th was the arrest of the main suspect. When the police arrived at the man's residence, he was completely calm, acknowledged that his friends called him Jack, and agreed to provide a statement at the station. During the interrogation, he identified himself as Edwin Hall. Presented with a photograph of Kelsey, he claimed never to have seen her before. Even when shown surveillance footage from the store showing him following her closely, he insisted he had merely visited Target for personal reasons and hadn't noticed her, suggesting their appearance together in the footage was merely a bizarre coincidence. Irrefutable evidence, Edwin was evidently confident that he had left no trace behind and could not be held accountable. His van was clean. He had assaulted the victim using contraception, leaving no DNA evidence. Therefore, Hall agreed to cooperate with the investigation and even volunteered to provide his DNA sample and fingerprints. Crucially, his thumbprint matched the one found on the victim's car's seatbelt buckle, becoming a pivotal piece of evidence. Furthermore, during a thorough search of the suspect's home, a hidden air pistol was found with Kelsey's DNA traces on the barrel. Hall was then officially charged with the abduction, assault, and termination of the young woman's life. Since Smith was abducted in Kansas, but her lifeless body was discovered in Missouri, there arose a question regarding the jurisdiction of the trial. This detail was significantly important as it affected the potential sentence in Missouri. The perpetrator faced the possibility of capital punishment trial and sentence. Hall, realizing the gravity of his situation, and after consulting with his attorney, decided to fully admit his guilt and disclose the details and circumstances of the crime in hopes of receiving a lesser sentence. He recounted how he noticed Kelsey as she entered the store and followed her. Indeed, he was close enough to overhear her phone conversation, learning she planned to visit the shopping center across the street. Edwin made sure Smith was alone, followed her to the adjacent parking lot, and was pleased when she parked in a secluded spot near the side entrance. He then emerged from his vehicle, armed with a pistol, waited for the victim to return to her car, and prevented her from closing the door as she was getting into the driver's seat. Apparently, she had already pulled out the seatbelt, but he didn't allow her to buckle up, leaving his print on it in the process. Next, he placed the pistol barrel in the unfortunate girl's mouth, coercing her to move to his vehicle's driver's seat. Under threat, Smith drove Hall's truck while he aimed the pistol at her and instructed where to go. Upon reaching a remote area at the state border, he ordered her out of the truck and led her into the bushes. There, he assaulted her, strangled her with the belt, and covered her body with branches. He meticulously cleaned his truck's cabin to remove any fingerprints, DNA, or other traces of the victim's presence, and hid the pistol with Kelsey's saliva at his home, confident it would never be found. When asked about his motive, he couldn't provide a clear explanation, but indifferently commented on her fantastic legs. Additionally, during the investigation, several other women and girls victimized by Hall's actions came forward. As a result, charges of corruption of a minor, harassment, and theft were added to the existing accusations. Hall's lawyer attempted to appeal to the court's sympathy, highlighting his client's troubled childhood, past victimhood, lack of parental care, and upbringing in foster homes. The defense's efforts were in vain, but the lawyer was the only person to speak on the defendant's behalf and support him. Hall's wife was present at all court hearings, but sat quietly in a corner, refusing to defend her husband. On September 16, 2008, Johnson County's judge sentenced Edwin Roy Hall to 27 life sentences without the possibility of parole. After hearing the verdict, the defendant apologized to the Smith family for his actions and then broke down in tears. He is currently serving his sentence at the Hutchinson Correctional Facility in Kansas. The Kelsey Smith Act played a significant role in this case. Verizon Communications hesitated for 4 days to provide data regarding the last known location of the missing girl's phone signal, citing privacy laws and the absence of a court order, the issuance of which would take time. Although it was later determined that this information wouldn't have saved young Smith, in other situations, it could help preserve the lives and health of individuals in danger. This led to the enactment of the Kelsey Smith Act by Kansas in 2009, mandating telecommunications companies to provide subscriber location information when there is a risk of death or serious physical harm to the individual. An additional 29 states, including Missouri, adopted similar legislation by 2012. In 2021, Oklahoma, Montana, and Illinois also passed the Kelsey Smith Act. Since its enactment, this law has helped save many lives. For instance, in 2015 in Lenexa, Kansas, when a perpetrator stole a car with a child in a car seat, the police were able to locate him within half an hour by tracking the signal from the mobile phone left on the back seat by the child's mother. In 2021 in Illinois, a similar method was used to find a young woman who attempted to end her life by jumping off a cliff. She survived, albeit with significant injuries, but the prompt tracking of her phone signal led to her rescue. Interestingly, the Smith family never requested the law to be named after their deceased daughter. The idea came from Kansas Senator Rob Olson. Following their tragedy, the girl's family established a foundation to assist crime victims and continues to raise awareness among young people about safety issues. Every relationship of a person is based on the pillar of trust, whether it's between parents and children, husband and wife, or even between boyfriend and girlfriend. But if someone breaks the trust of another person in these essential relationships and starts thinking badly about them, it feels really terrible. Today's case is somewhat similar, where a boy and a girl from Pakistan were very happy in their relationship. But then, after some time, the girl broke up because she started seeing a dark side of her boyfriend. What the boy did with his girlfriend shook the entire Pakistan. Shaukat Ali Muqaddam was not only a normal citizen of Pakistan, but also a diplomat and ambassador of Pakistan. Due to this, he had to live in different countries. However, in 2021, he was living in Islamabad, Pakistan. Apart from this, at one point, Shaukat Ali had also been Pakistan's ambassador to South Korea and Kazakhstan. Because of this, he held a very high position in Pakistan. There were a total of 5 people in his family, including Shaukat Muqaddam, his wife Kausar Muqaddam, 2 daughters, and 1 son. October 23, 1993, was the day when a beautiful girl was born in Shaukat Ali's house, whom they named Noor. Noor was a healthy and cute baby who always laughed and never bothered anyone too much. Although Shaukat's professional life was very busy and stressful, when he came home, he spent quality time with his family. As a result, his children had a very good upbringing. From her school days, Noor had a great interest in studying. She always used to read either school books or other books. Now, because Shaukat Muqaddam was a diplomat, he used to get transferred to other countries due to his work, which is why Noor started her schooling in Ireland. Then, she completed high school in South Korea. After South Korea, the family moved to Kazakhstan, but Noor thought about completing her college in the US, where her older sister Sarah also lived. However, after the US, Noor returned to Pakistan, Islamabad. As humble and smart as Noor was in her childhood, she was equally humble and smart in her adult years. That's why everyone at home trusted Noor and easily accepted her decisions. Besides, Noor loved animals, especially stray dogs and cats. She used to feed them whenever she had time. Although Noor belonged to a wealthy family, she never had a liking for materialistic things. By hearing all these things, you must have understood that Noor was a kind-hearted, down-to-earth, intelligent, and confident girl. Along with all these things, Noor also had a great passion for art and calligraphy. She often made religious paintings too. As I mentioned, coming from a wealthy diplomat family, parties were a common occurrence at the diplomats' homes. So, Shaukat Muqaddam often took his family to such parties because they were excellent for networking and building connections. It was at one such party in 2018 that Noor met a boy named Zahir Jaffer. Zahir and Noor are both going to be key characters in this case, so before we proceed, let's take a brief look at Zahir's background. Zahir Jaffer was born in the USA, but he spent his childhood and teenage years in Pakistan. After that, Zahir pursued his graduation in the US and also spent some time living in the UK. Zahir's father was Zakir Jaffer, who is a very successful businessman. Due to his father's business ventures, the Jaffer family was one of the wealthiest families in Pakistan. The Jaffer family had various businesses, including healthcare, oil, real estate, and construction. This also provided them with opportunities to work with their country's military. One of these companies is Ahmed Jaffer and Company, where Zahir Jaffer is now the CEO, while his father, Zakir Jaffer, used to oversee the company. But after some time, Zahir's mood changed, and he started working as a therapist at a company called Therapy Works. In this company, Zahir used to listen to the children of the school and explain to them about mental health care. He also used to arrange lectures and presentations for the children. But the shocking thing here is that Zahir himself was an introverted and angry person since childhood. He also had very few friends, and he rarely attended parties with them. But it is at one such party that he meets Noor, and he likes her, and Noor also enjoys talking to Zahir. Perhaps this happened because their personalities were different, and people say that opposite personalities are attracted to each other. However, both their families already knew each other because they used to attend such parties. But friendship between Noor and Zahir developed from this party. Then, after some time, this friendship turned into love, and they both entered into a romantic relationship. However, it's not like they kept this fact hidden from their parents or friends. Rather, both their families and friends knew that Zahir and Noor were dating. Both families were happy because Noor completes Zahir, and Zahir completes Noor. Actually, Noor brought out a side of Zahir that no one had seen before. Whereas Zahir used to be very introverted before, as soon as he met Noor, his personality began to change gradually. He started enjoying his life, hanging out with people. And at one party, people were surprised to see Zahir dancing with Noor, including Zahir's family, because they had never thought they would see this side of Zahir's personality. Everything was going well, but as the relationship grew older, things started to deteriorate. Zahir called the taxi driver again and asked him to return to his house. The taxi driver, hoping for full payment, returned to Zahir's house. Once more, Zahir made the driver wait outside briefly. At 2:15 a.m., Zahir emerged with luggage, accompanied by No, who was barefoot, a detail that struck the driver as odd. During the ride, Zahir spoke to No, who remained unresponsive, though the driver initially paid little heed. Midway, Zahir directed the driver towards home, citing their lateness for catching a flight. The taxi dropped them off at Jaffer's house by 2:35 a.m., where No exited, only for Zahir to pull her back inside against the driver's observation. No remained at Zahir's house throughout July 19th and into July 20th, Eid Day, despite her parents' growing concern. Her father, Shaukat Muqaddam, texted her at 12:57 a.m. on July 20th, receiving no reply, followed by her mother's messages and calls from family friends at 5:48 a.m., also unanswered. Fearing the worst, her parents were on the verge of contacting the police when, at 10:43 a.m., they received a voice message from No, the last time her mother heard her voice. Immediately after, Zahir called No's mother, asserting No was not at his house, seemingly trying to establish an alibi. Between 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. that day, Zahir repeatedly called his father, Zakir Jaffer. Around 7:10 p.m., No was seen on CCTV, though her condition was dire, evidence of severe abuse inflicted by Zahir. The footage showed her attempting to flee, only to be thwarted each time by Zahir's staff, who alerted him. Enraged by her final attempt, Zahir assaulted her viciously before fatally injuring her. He then called his father and friends, falsely claiming a burglary and seeking assistance. By 8:30 p.m., Tahir Zahour, CEO of Therapy Works, arrived with 6 employees and Zahir's friends. Unable to enter through the closed door, they accessed the house via a ladder and window. Inside, they found blood spattered across the room and discovered No's decapitated body, horrifying everyone present. Amidst the chaos, neighbors alerted the police due to Zahir's loud cries during his capture. On July 20th, around 10 p.m., the police informed Shaukat Muqaddam of his daughter's murder, plunging the Muqaddam family into mourning. They were determined to see justice served under Pakistani law, advocating for the death penalty for Zahir. Upon his arrest, Zahir surprisingly confessed to the crime, citing unrequited love and rejection as motives. Despite attempts to prove mental instability during his trial, psychiatric evaluations deemed him fit to stand trial, revealing a history of abuse and violence. In a landmark decision on February 24, 2022, Zahir was sentenced to 2 death penalties, one for assaulting and another for murdering No. Additionally, 2 of Zahir's household staff received 10-year sentences. The case sparked widespread outrage and demands for justice across Pakistan, culminating in rallies and marches. No's tragic story underscored the urgent need for societal change and stricter enforcement against violence, especially towards women. The case of No's murder brought the nation together in demanding justice and highlighting systemic failures in protecting vulnerable individuals. Zahir's trial became a focal point for discussions on domestic violence, mental health, and the legal system's responsiveness to such atrocities. Despite Zahir's attempts to evade accountability by claiming mental instability, the court's decision to sentence him underscored the severity of his actions and the importance of upholding justice for victims like No. Throughout the proceedings, details emerged of Zahir's abusive tendencies and his attempts to exert control over No, escalating to a brutal and fatal conclusion. His manipulative tactics and disregard for human life painted a chilling picture of his character, contrasting sharply with No's innocence and the hopes and dreams she carried before her untimely death. The tragedy of No Mukaddam's murder serves as a stark reminder of the dangers faced by individuals in abusive relationships and the urgent need for stronger protections and support systems. Her family's relentless pursuit of justice and the public outcry against such heinous acts have sparked conversations about gender-based violence and the steps needed to prevent similar tragedies in the future. As the legal proceedings concluded and Zahir faced the consequences of his actions, the Mukaddam family found some measure of closure, knowing that their beloved daughter's memory would live on as a symbol of resilience and the ongoing fight for justice. The case of No Mukaddam stands as a testament to the enduring struggle for a society where every individual can live free from fear and violence, and where justice prevails over impunity. Jane Hilton, a columnist for Foothill Times in El Dorado Hills, California, moved into a new house seeking refuge from a troubled marriage just a day before tragedy struck. On July 6, 1985, her life came to a brutal end. Ricky Davis and Connie Dahl, returning home early that morning, found Jane's bloody body in her bedroom. Despite their efforts and the arrival of paramedics, Jane Hilton was pronounced dead at the scene, having sustained 29 stab wounds and other injuries. The murder initially baffled investigators, and the case remained unsolved for 14 years, until it was reopened in 1999 by detectives Richard Stazer and Rit Fitzgerald. A pivotal moment came when a misquote in an article led investigators to focus on Ricky Davis, a resident at the house where Jane was killed. Connie Dahl, under intense interrogation over 18 months, eventually confessed to the crime, implicating Davis and Jane's daughter Autumn in various accounts of the night. Based on Connie Dahl's testimony, Ricky Davis was tried and convicted in 2005 for second-degree murder, while Dahl received a lesser charge. However, Davis maintained his innocence and, in 2006, contacted the Northern California Innocence Project, NCIP, for help. Through their efforts and advancements in genetic genealogy testing, a breakthrough came in 2020 when DNA evidence pointed to a new suspect, Michael Green, who was identified and arrested. Michael Green, who was a teenager at the time of Jane Hilton's murder, ultimately pleaded no contest in 2022, accepting responsibility for the crime. This development led to Ricky Davis's exoneration after spending years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Davis's release marked the end of a long legal battle and a testament to the persistence of organizations like the Innocence Project in seeking justice. The case highlighted flaws in interrogation tactics and the impact of false confessions, prompting legislative changes in California to prevent similar injustices in the future. Despite the resolution, the scars of the past remain for Jane Hilton's family, who endured decades of uncertainty and wrongful accusations. The exoneration of Ricky Davis in 2020 brought both relief and sorrow. While justice finally acknowledged his innocence, the years lost behind bars could never be fully regained. Davis, after his release, planned to rebuild his life, supported by his family and legal team, yet the emotional and practical challenges remained immense. Meanwhile, Michael Green's admission and plea added a new chapter to the tragic story. His involvement, revealed after decades, raised questions about how such a crime could have been hidden for so long. Green's plea of no contest and subsequent sentencing in 2022 were significant moments in legal proceedings, yet they could not undo the devastation wrought upon Jane Hilton's family and the community. The case sparked broader discussions on wrongful convictions, interrogation methods, and the role of DNA evidence in criminal justice. It also led to reforms aimed at preventing coerced confessions and ensuring fair trials for all, particularly highlighting the vulnerabilities of juvenile offenders in the legal system. For Jane Hilton's children and loved ones, the resolution of the case brought closure in knowing the true perpetrator was held accountable. Yet, the scars of the past and the trauma endured lingered, reminding everyone involved of the profound impact of one tragic event on so many lives. The aftermath of Michael Green's plea and Ricky Davis's exoneration reverberated through the community and legal system alike. For Davis, freedom brought a mix of emotions: relief, vindication, but also the daunting task of rebuilding his life after years of wrongful imprisonment. His legal team's efforts to secure compensation and seek accountability for the miscarriage of justice underscored the enduring consequences of false convictions. In contrast, Michael Green's admission of guilt, decades after the crime, raised questions about the dynamics of justice and memory. His acknowledgement and subsequent legal proceedings provided a new perspective on the complexities of criminal investigations and the impact of time on unraveling the truth. The case also prompted legislative reforms aimed at safeguarding against wrongful convictions, particularly in cases involving coerced confessions and the use of advanced DNA technology. California's adoption of stricter standards and practices in interrogations reflected a broader shift towards ensuring fairness and accuracy in criminal proceedings. Despite legal resolutions and institutional changes, the personal toll on Jane Hilton's family remained profound. The loss of a loved one under such tragic circumstances, compounded by years of uncertainty and legal battles, left enduring wounds that could not easily heal. Each member of her family grappled with their own journey of grief, resilience, and, ultimately, seeking closure in the wake of profound tragedy. As the community reflected on the implications of the case, questions lingered about how such injustices could occur and what measures could prevent similar tragedies in the future. The story of Jane Hilton's murder and its aftermath served as a poignant reminder of the complexities inherent in seeking justice and the enduring impact on all those touched by such profound loss and legal battles. Subscribe for more amazing videos.